So the government is planning to change the way the criminal justice system tackles child sex abuse. The measures to be outlined later today will include a national panel to review all complaints of sex abuse that police and prosecutors have not pursued. Dedicated rape and serious sex offence units in every branch of the Crown Prosecution Service, and a specialist training for police and prosecutors handling child sex abuse and exploitation cases. There'll also be new guidelines on prosecution, all of which the Director of Public Prosecution says are needed to avoid another case like that of Jimmy Savile. Well, with me now is Anna Brown, who works as a psychotherapist with victims of child abuse and whose son was sexually abused by a close family friend. Good to talk to you, Anna. So then, from your personal and professional experience, do these reforms sound like A, they're needed, and B, they're heading in the right direction?
Well, initially I'd say yes to both, but as always with these so-called new reforms, one can't help wonder how they're actually going to implement them. Who is going to be giving them the training in how to deal with victims that come forward? How are they going to do the reforms, and how, most importantly, are they actually going to implement them?
What about that personal experience with your son? I mean, how did that unfold, and how was it dealt with by the authorities?
It was a very painful experience for the whole family, as you can imagine, not least of course for my son. The police we dealt with were amazing. Each individual person, they were fantastic, but even they were confined by what they were allowed to do. So, for instance, we were asked specifically not to get my son professional help because they felt that would implicate negatively on an outcome in the court.
What about false memory and things like that, perhaps?
Yes, which professionally I would dispute that, highly dispute that. So for him, every time he spoke about the abuse, he was being re-traumatised. And to go into court and then say again, you know, over and over what happened to him, was reliving it. And he's not unique in that. Every abuse victim will say the same.
Well, I mean, let's get on to the professional side. I mean, that seems to be one of the biggest barriers, is that step, first of all, to come forward about it, to find somebody you can tell and trust.
Definitely. In my professional experience, the victims and clients that I work with now all say the same thing. It's shame, self-blame, and most importantly fear. Fear of repercussions, both from the perpetrator, from people around them, from family, especially if it's an incest. Fear of not being believed. And I think it's the fear of not being believed. It is one of the biggest things. Even now in my professional working with clients, frequently throughout a session I will be asked, "You do believe me, don't you?"
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult then to address that, and also to get the message out that, if you say here, these reforms, these changes really will alter that, because that's fundamental.
It certainly is. And I think what's fundamental to any of that change is to take away the taboo, allowing people to actually say, do you know what? I was abused and I'm okay. I need help. I will get help, but I'm going to be okay. And it's okay to say I was abused. At the moment, it's all behind closed doors.
I mean, it does seem that it varies. I mean, we use postcode lottery, don't we, when it comes to the National Health Service, but it seems to vary from agency to agency, from area to area, from individual to individual. I'm talking in terms of the various authorities that get involved here, what kind of a hearing you get as a potential victim of abuse.
Very little. There's nothing. Aurora, who I work for professionally, is the only agency in the country that works in the way it does with adult victim survivors of child abuse. We have no funding. We're trying to work with the NHS to say, you know, look, we're here, because what they provide is negligible, and what is there doesn't work. It's been proven it doesn't work, which is why we have so many people trying to access our services and having to refuse so many because they haven't got the funding and we can't afford to do it for nothing.
So still a lot to be done in your book. Anna, thank you very much indeed for coming in to tell us all about that. Anna Brown there.